The National Assembly at the Cape Town City Hall yesterday has voted against the EFF's motion for the removal of Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula from office. The EFF tabled a motion of no confidence against the Speaker following the party's removal from the chamber during the State of the Nation address. Members of the party charged towards the podium while President Cyril Ramaphosa was on stage, prompting Mapisa-Nqakula to order security services to remove them. Political analyst Khanyi Magubane joins us now to talk about what happened yesterday. Good to see you, Khanyi. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Leanne, and your viewers.
So yesterday, 234 members of the National Assembly voted against the motion to remove the Speaker, basically saying that the Speaker acted in accordance with the provisions of the Joint Rules of Parliament. 42 voted in support of the motion, 73 abstained. Did the motion stand a chance? What do you think?
No, I don't think the motion stood a chance, and because we all saw the scenes that played out during the State of the Nation address. We all saw the security threat that was imposed on the persons of the president when the EFF charged onto stage, prompting the security to come on stage to protect the president. When somebody does something like that to physically attack the president, we've seen in other countries, other heads of state, they've been shot and assassinated at public gatherings, through individuals that were able to get close proximity to them. So there's a level of security that the EFF breached at that time. And the Speaker was within her powers to protect the president, but to also maintain the dignity of the event of the day. And so we did see the scenes that played out were quite brutal in terms of the EFF being taken out of the chamber. And yesterday we heard Malema say that Mapisa-Nqakula was out of order and that she had flouted, joint rules of parliament. And so the overwhelming majority, I watched each of them one by one as they all said no, 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 no. Those ANC MPs basically throwing out that motion of no confidence.
Yeah. I mean, Parliament says that the Speaker has appreciated the debate on the motion against her, as it did not only strengthen democratic engagement and accountability, but it also helped her to learn from constructive criticism where it was made. Your view on the perspective of the Speaker, or is that kind of, what you expect her to say?
Well, I mean, it's spin doctoring, if we can put it plain, because we know that the Speaker was under immense pressure on that day, and that, she was under pressure to maintain decorum and to protect the president at the same time. And she has come under fire, even as her own person, her character and the scandals that she's been involved in, as a former defense minister. But also, Julius also described her as an unrepentant delinquent. Those were his particular words that he used to describe her. However, the vote yesterday goes to show that she is well protected within her party, that the caucus, the ANC caucus, acted in unison, and that they maintained the state of quo, and they were able to prevent that motion of no confidence from going forward. So it was a blow for the EFF because they had expected to be supported, but the support was really an EFF issue. And unfortunately, the scenes did play out in the public gallery, and we also what happened that day. And so I think we can all say, it never stood a chance at all.
Yeah. I mean, so we know that the EFF's complaint to the Inter-Parliamentary Union Committee on Human Rights of Parliamentarians on the same matter, and the matter was admissible. What are your views on the motive brought about by the EFF? Do you think it was justifiable? As you keep saying, we all saw what happened that night. It played out in front of live television cameras. So do you think it was justifiable?
I think that we are in pre-election season. And I think that I am not surprised by a number of events that we are seeing at this time. The EFF has had quite a big week, in two big events in 1 week, the national shutdown, which the CIC started by congratulating the people and even being as emboldened to say, I am in charge. Those were his words. He says he's got South Africa by the scrotum, as per his words, and that people trust his voice more more than they trust the voice of government. And those are very serious, confidence boosters for the party when the leader is able to assess their own event, to have been a success. And so the question at the end of the day, did the EFF always know that it was going to lose, but just took a jab at it anyway, or were they actually genuinely expecting to win? I mean, one can never know. We are in electioneering season. Everybody has a motive. Everybody's going to use any type of gap that they can to try and push forward in pushing their own agenda.
Yeah. Let's talk about the week that was for the EFF. Obviously, we have the president coming out and saying that, he said this is it's huge electioneering time. And obviously, the EFF are trying to cash in on that. There have been many views and thoughts about what the national shutdown, if it was a success or if it wasn't a success, that was called by the EFF. We saw the SG of the ANC, Vikile Mbalula, calling it a flop. I mean, can you really call it a flop? I mean, let's look at Monday. What did you make of Monday and that national shutdown? Was it a success? Did the EFF achieve what they promised that they would?
Well, I think it's all a matter of perspective. Government says it was a success from their side because they deployed, their forces en masse. There were police on the ground. The defense was on the ground. There were roadblocks. Private security companies were up in alert. The shopping centers around suburbs were on high alert. We saw police cordoning off major centers of business like Florida Road in Durban, where there were big skirmishes between the EFF and police there because of their refusal for them to walk through Florida Road because of businesses and their concerns of their safety if the EFF made it through that route. And the EFF, on the other hand, says it was successful because we managed to show you who has the power. Julius keeps saying that when you say to the people of South Africa, go to work, we will protect you, they don't believe you. They say, if you've not protected us in the past, what makes you think you can protect us today? And that is what the EFF saying is success for them, that they've shown and they've wielded their power and their influence. They were able to get the economy to a standstill. And even though it was pre-holiday and a lot of people were on leave already, the EFF says that the continued economic slowdown on that day is a direct result of their instructions for people to shut down on that day.
So, I mean, yeah, we look at it, and obviously that's the one thing that many people are speaking to, and certainly that was the police presence and the presence of law enforcement that almost made it impossible for things to go wrong, which is great, and people calling for that and saying, why don't we see that all the time? Obviously, there's been reasons given by the police ministry saying that they called on reservists, they called on everybody that was meant to be off to be on duty. We had the SANDF present, we had private security companies that were working alongside the police. But the reality is that people want to see that on a normal day. Shutdown aside, we have incredibly high crime rates here in South Africa, one of the highest in the world. People die on a daily basis in huge numbers. I mean, when we see crime stats come out, it takes our breath away knowing that this isn't a war zone, and yet it is a war zone. That must have really shone through quite a lot on the day, saying, why can this not be the case every day?
I think we were all surprised that the state can work so effectively, especially when it comes to the police and the security cluster. I mean, I think a lot of us were shocked by the sheer amount of resources that we have, first and foremost. The choppers, the big vans that are able to arrest a lot of people. We saw an effective security cluster for the first time in a very long time. And to allude to your question, why isn't this the case? And I think that we need to treat South Africa as a permanent high alert state, and we need to deploy, our forces more effectively. But the truth is, we can't have the defense and soldiers running around the streets on a daily basis. Then, we're not an armed state in that way. And so the police who are on the ground are the ones who must lead that charge. They are the ones who need to be able to make citizens feel safe in their local communities. Because if they could do it on Monday, what's stopping them from doing it on a daily basis? And I think Begicele has a case to answer for. It's like, oh, so you do have the capacity. What happened to this capacity in the July unrest that took place in 2021? Where was this capacity? So the truth is that sometimes it's about the orders that are given and where the call comes from. And that's when forces are able to get into formation, because then we've seen that South Africa has the potential to effectively protect its citizens. It should be the case on a daily basis, not just on shutdowns like on Monday.
Indeed. All right. I wanted to get into another issue that happened in Parliament yesterday, and that was all about Phala. But no time, unfortunately. We have to wrap it there. We've got to get into our news at 7 o'clock. And of course, that was where the vote showed that Parliament will not be opening up an inquiry after a vote yesterday to investigate the President's Phala farm issue. But the DA is saying they will not leave it there. But political analyst Khanyi Magubane, thank you. Thanks so much for talking to us this morning, discussing the outcomes of parliamentary proceedings yesterday in regard to the two motions of no confidence against National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula.